Let's continue now looking at the impact of the alcohol ban. Heineken South Africa says it has to let go 70 of its 1,000-strong workforce in South Africa as lockdown restrictions and alcohol bans bite. Millicent Maroga is the Corporate Affairs Director at Heineken South Africa, and she joins us now. Millicent, thanks very much for joining us. So in 2020, you were able to avoid retrenchments due to COVID-19 with the alcohol bans, but not in 2021. Why not?
Sadly, Sally, we find ourselves in a position where, as a business, the cost-cutting measures that we have put in place in 2020 are no longer adequate to maintain the operating cost or operational expenses of the business. So the latest ban really has hit us the most as Heineken, where we now have to look into the decision of having to do an organizational restructure, with some roles within the business having to be exited of our organizational structure.
Of course, we've seen a large impacts in terms of investments being cancelled across the alcohol industry, and 70 workers now at Heineken, of course, are now going to have to be retrenched. Do you think that South Africa is becoming an increasingly unfriendly environment for the alcohol industry?
Well, South Africa has had the most harshest lockdown measures when it comes to the sale of alcohol. The other markets, of course, have implemented restrictions, but they have allowed some kind of trading to take place, whether it was of consumption or online sales of alcohol. In South Africa, we had an alcohol ban in 2020 for 15 weeks. And then we had a very disrupted trading period during the festive season. So we really find ourselves as a liquor industry in a very difficult position, because we are currently under a ban with no timelines as to when the ban will be lifted. And that, of course, comes with massive implications for capital investments, jobs in the industry, jobs within the big players in the sector, but also small businesses that are also employing people, where all our sustainability is actually at stake.
You mentioned the issue of no timelines, and I think it's that uncertainty that's a real problem as well. Do you think, we're seeing that the numbers of infections are slowly starting to drop, and we know we can't get complacent, but do you think if government came out tomorrow and said, actually, you know what, in the middle of February, we're going to partially lift the ban, would that make all the difference to Heineken South Africa?
Look, Sally, I think at this point in time, any form of economic activity for the industry will certainly make a difference, because we also have to take into account that there are small players. I make reference to the craft brewers who have been without an income for quite some time. And so any relief from government in terms of allowing for the sale of alcohol, as an industry, we've been asking for off-consumption, we've been asking for online trading to be permitted, at least to have some kind of economic activity happening, and for us to also safeguard the jobs that are actually the jobs within the industry and also within the value chain of the industry.
Certainly, I think what this alcohol ban has highlighted is that South Africa has a very dysfunctional relationship with alcohol, that we've seen such a dramatic impact in the reduction of trauma cases in our hospitals. And I think no one is disputing that we need to do something to take the pressure off our hospitals. But is it leading to some really tough conversations at Heineken and other brewers about how they get it right? Because certainly in South Africa, there's a problem in terms of alcohol. Do you think we need to see policy changes? Do things need to be revamped significantly?
So as an industry, we do agree that we certainly need to see a better culture when it comes to drinking in South Africa. I think the numbers do speak to them, speak for themselves with regards to binge drinking, drinking and driving in this country. And that is the collective responsibility of every citizen or every adult who has made the decision to consume alcohol. So yes, as Heineken and also as an industry, we do acknowledge that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of educating our consumers and also putting in place programs in partnership with government and also civil society to make sure that we get to a point where we have a healthy drinking culture. And so we do not dispute the fact that we need to change certain issues or certain factors in relation to consumption of alcohol in our society.
Very briefly, would Heineken ever consider going the legal route to challenge the alcohol ban, as the wine farmers say they're planning to do and as SAB has indicated it plans to?
At this point in time, we're exploring different options. We are still in discussion with government. And of course, as an industry, we have many alternatives that are open to us. But at this point in time, as Heineken, we'll continue engaging with government and, of course, continue working with our industry partners, such as SAB and the wine industry, to make sure that somehow we pursue both options. We have to pursue all options that are available to us, unfortunately, as a sector collectively, to make sure that we finally get some kind of a reasonable solution with government, and a solution that balances both livelihoods and also saving lives, but at the same time also not putting unnecessary pressure on the healthcare system. And I just think there is still room for us with government to have that discussion and then map what is that middle ground.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. That was Millicent Maroga, Corporate Affairs Director at Heineken South Africa. They're going to have to lay off 70 workers due to the alcohol ban.